He lives down Willowdale and Gray. I'm right across the bayou. And we'd actually meet each other at our houses. We'll ride our bicycles to Shreva Gym, go play tennis, go play basketball. We'd even we'll ride our bikes to Terrebonne High. We had ankle weights on our ankles, and we'd go run stadiums.
I do know this, he would sleep with a football. When he went to bed at night, he had a football in his arm, and he wanted to wake up the next day with the football still in his arm. So he wanted to play football. We didn't know in the 7th grade where that was going to end.
We used to go out there and we'd bring our own footballs every day to class, and like Timmy had said, we'd hold it in our hand. And when we couldn't wait for that bell to ring and go out there to research. And we'll come back home with holes in our shirts.
They had different activities, homeroom against homeroom. So the first thing I remember was the track, running track. And so they had the relays and the distance running and all that. In the 7th grade, Jesse had the it factor. Jesse was heads and heels over athletically as far as basketball, running, just in general. We didn't play football at Shreva School, but later on the football came into it.
His mama was Luberta, his daddy. I can still see them, how humble both of those people were. That was Jesse.
Jesse, for the most part, was quiet. He was very humble. Jesse didn't like the limelight. He didn't like to be the spotlight.
God gave him that talent. He was just so much quicker, faster, stronger than anybody else. Baseball, basketball, no problem dunking. Shoot anywhere on the court. Just natural talent.
I really didn't know Jesse. I walked in at Evergreen as an 8th grader. I don't remember quite our 8th grade year, what we ended up, but I do know our 9th grade year, 6-0. The guy had smooth moves and running over people.
Jesse was not allowed to play on the JV, right? I think maybe 1 or 2 games he got a couple plays in, but he was a varsity guy as a sophomore.
Special. When in practice, when you're standing behind and you're running plays and the hole opens up, it's supposed to be here, the hole opens up, he just dart through it.
And let me tell you, I was fortunate to have Coach Rod, because he was a running back for McNeese State Cowboys. I have him, what he taught me and Jesse, just words can't describe.
Back then, all the kids were coachable. There was no social media. There was no street agents pulling up to 7-on-7 and ruining our great game of football.
So Jesse was a cheerleader in that aspect of coming to the defense and just looking us in the eye and saying, just get us the ball back. We need the ball, we'll be okay.
In Donald's mind, Don Schwab, thought that he would have been stretching him too thin. We were playing 4A football. And if he'd have been at a single A school, he'd have done everything, played tennis, done it, and would have done it. The only thing he didn't play for us was baseball, and he wanted to. He attempted, Coach James Basrow had him on the diamond one day, and Schwab says, nope, he's not playing. And Jesse kind of balked, but he understood. With Schwab, he built character. He built camaraderie, he built those things, and the kids bought it.
He would put his old football films on for LSU, and me and Justice, we looking, our Myles hanging down, he's carrying 3 or 4 guys on his back. Unbelievable.
The junior and senior year was the Jody and Jesse show.
We played at EA one year. The score was 20-0. And we were running our sprint draw. And Jesse, like at halftime, he told me, say, Coach, I could cut it back. He says they were overloading everything, So he says, bring it out. And so I told the lineman, I said, guys, instead of, if we were running double down, kick out to the left, he would get to the hole and the backside had made a push. He would come out the back door. He probably had about 50 yards in the first half. The second half, he had 250. And we won the game 21. And of course, he kicked every extra point.
He kicked extra points, and now he ran into some trouble sometimes having to change his shoe, because he had to change the shoe, and he kicked with a square front kicking shoe, And it was a lot of times it was hurry up, get the shoe on, and he had to kick a field goal, kick extra point.
Coach Schwab knew we can both kick the ball. So long story short, I ended up punting because I had a little bit more hang time, and he was the kickoff guy, and Jesse can kick that ball.
Yeah, it was who's got Jesse's shoe? Stand right here. You get ready, get the shoe ready.
We ran a 26 cut, which is right off of my right side on the right side. We ran it 8 times in a row, from our 40 down to about the 10-yard line. And we called something else and we scored a touchdown. I went back and asked Coach Schwab at the time, I said, how many times you gonna run this play? He said, till they stop it. There was many a time you didn't have to give Jesse a big hole. I mean, a lot of times he right off your hip, right off, and bounce off of you and he was gone. And I saw a lot of the back of his jersey.
Jesse danced from the 10-yard line, walked the chalk line, never till today, I don't see how he stayed in bounds, walked the chalk line in 10 yards and went over that flag and scored that touchdown. At 10 yards, losing his balance, but he stayed in. Never would know how he did it, but he did it. It was his natural talent.
I don't know if the guy ever got tackled in the backfield.
We predominantly ran the ball. I mean, Jesse was carrying it 25 times a game. Jody was probably carrying about 4 or 5 times a game.
I don't even remember who was our quarterback. Really didn't. All we did was run the ball. So.
Well, there was another game we played against Thibodeau, and again, we were behind. And we had run a play, and he gets out in the open. He's got a blocker, and they got a defender. So it might have been Jody. I can't remember. It might have when I threw the block. Back then, you could block below the waist. So Jesse's making his move, and everything ends up at his feet, and he's on one leg, and he's in the air, and he doesn't put this one down. He hops right over both of them and goes for about 50 yards and a touchdown.
We used to talk about sweetness a lot. Walter Payton, because he was kind of like not that big back, you know, just that all heart. And that's what me and Jesse had. We had heart. Now Jesse had natural talent, but we had the heart too to go with it.
And then, of course, he played basketball. We went to the top 20. We played in Tulane's gym against Holy Cross. And at the end of the game, he needs to make 2 free throws for us to win the game with second. He steps up there and sinks both of them. And I mean, he was just a gamer. If I could go back to myself, and then we would throw the ball more, just to give Jesse the ball in the flat more. Give him the ball in what people are doing today. Give the athlete the ball in space. We didn't do that enough with him, and as good as he was, we'd have made him greater.
It was our last game, senior year. We were going to play Assumption. So you get to the field house, everybody gets dressed, you start meditating, you're about to get on the bus. So a few of us was out back, just sitting along the fence behind the field house at HL Bourgeois, just kind of thinking about what was going on. Some of us knew this was the last football game we were going to play. Okay, so Jesse saw me sitting by the fence, and he comes walk out there and says, so what's going on? Why are you so quiet? Because I was the rah-rah guy, all right? I was the guy that was rah-rah and getting everybody up. I said, this is it. I said, this is the end. I said, this is probably the last game I'll ever play in. Well, he said, I said, Jesse, you going on, man. You going to LSU. I said, you got a lot of more football in you. I said, but for me, it's the last game. And he said, well, I don't know where this is going to bring me. He said, but I hope wherever it takes me, it means as much as it does now.
Put 4 LSU tickets on his table, and for young high school, that meant the world. And of course, me, Jesse, and his dad, I think Suave came with us, and that was a big night for us. Never forget that night with Jesse.
We definitely knew that Jesse had a chance to go play college. We didn't know as sophomores or juniors in that junior year, we didn't know it would be LSU. We knew there was an inside track at LSU with Coach Schwab, playing for the Tigers.
Jesse listened to Donald. I mean, him and Donald had conversations.
He had a bunch of letters he used to tell me in different colleges, but he was leaning more towards the Tigers, yeah.
We'd go to the game and see him after the game, and we'd go to spring practice and so on. And I mean, he'd always come around And of course, with Donald, we get to go in the locker room and he'd introduce us to the guys that, of course, back then, most of the players were Louisiana guys, and we knew of them.
Kirk gets off the opening kickoff. Myles at the 1-yard line. Jesse Myles back up to the 22.
Well, he would just talk about it. It wasn't as fun in the high school days with the camaraderie with his buddies and the success we had, and then LSU success. But the NFL is a business, and then with Coach Reed, it was a business, and he would find Jesse. I remember find him for coming into camp overweight, and back then, that wasn't the off-season OTAs back then like there is today.
I would support him when he would come on his days off. He would come over and visit me, and we'll talk about old times, and I would give him some encouraging words,
And here comes the blitz, so he throws into the right flat to Myles.
20, 10, 5, touchdown, Jesse Myles.
When football was over, right, when Jesse came back, he was actually working at Home Depot in Houma, and so we saw him quite often.
Jesse wasn't a big talker. If you carry on a conversation with him, you have to kind of like drag stuff out of him.
He was a quiet guy. I mean, he could run the ball 8-10 yards of play for all night long, and you could tell he was pumped up, but he wouldn't say anything.
I just remember his infectious smile.
I can't personally ever remember him ever bragging or boasting about anything he's done. He didn't want to be in the spotlight.
So I mean, I don't remember anybody ever saying anything bad about Jesse.
As the athlete, as the ball carrier, he would be at the top. But the guys that I coach.